Hello there, Firooza. This is such a delight.
Hi,
Good morning
good morning to me and good
to
evening to
you.
you,
Good
Maggie.
evening to me.
Hello, yes.
Thank you for
It's
taking the
a
time
pleasure. Thank
to chat with me and IYISF. So without further ado, we'll jump right into our chat so that our student base can learn a little bit more about you. Okay, and so you are a household name when it comes to Iyengar Yoga. So I'm curious, when and how did you first learn about Iyengar Yoga and what captivated you to the teachings and practice?
Okay. That's an interesting question, which I have answered so many times before. I'll cut a long story a bit short. So I didn't come across Iyengar Yoga as such by the name Iyengar because I didn't know about it. I didn't know about I was only 18 or 19, like between 18 and 19 years old. And I had just heard about something called yoga. Being Indian, also, it was not a popular thing in those days. And it was something that you hear about. There's something like yoga, and there were some TV programs where some yoga was demonstrations were shown, and there were some yogis. Yogis always appeared in like Indian clothes, dhotis and kurtas, and like long hair and beard. And so that was way out of my lifestyle, so to say. But it just happened that one of my friends came with the information that there is a yoga class starting close by to our homes. And we were all students, and being at a loose end in the evenings, they decided that, okay, let's join up. So, and I was the one who said no. Actually, I said no, it doesn't seem interesting to me, so I'm not coming, you go ahead. And they went for a couple of months, and then they would come back with stories about what they did and how they did. And I would say, oh, okay, like because as when I was probably like 6 7 years old, my father was quite enthusiastic, and we as children were put through some gymnastics in the house, like some back bends and some handstands and some headstands. So I was familiar with that. I said, oh, all this I know, I've done it before. Like, I don't want to come to a class for this. But you know how when people just keep chatting, then you get curious and says, okay, I want to come and at least see, like you're saying so much about what you do and this wonderful teacher of yours. So I said, okay, let me go. And so I attended the class. I sat on the side on a bench and I looked through everything, not very impressed and a little bit bored. And then came the end of the class. So uh, I must tell you that I started yoga because of the sound and not because of the activity or the exercises. So there came the Shavasana part, and Father Joe, who was my first teacher, whom I joined later, he has, of course, a very good voice, but he also has a very good way of expressions. And that, when everybody, there was this whole class with that collective vibration of everybody in peacefully lying down, I had this intense desire to be part of that. I wanted to join that group for that shavasana and to follow the instructions that he was giving. So that played, so it was my ears and what I heard which impressed me more than what I saw with my eyes. And that's how I requested him, and he graciously accepted me as a student. And that's how I started. So I had no idea for even thereafter, probably for about a year or so, that it's something called Iyengar Yoga. I had absolutely no idea. It's something that I got drawn towards. I took to it I think like a duck to water. It was meant to be for me. So I enjoyed it. And I think I was more sincere towards that activity in my life than I was as a student in school, because this was something that came naturally to me. Okay. So the physical part as well, I enjoyed, because as I said, as a child, I was used to certain activities like that. So it was not completely new to me. Of course, I had a lot of discoveries in my body, and I realized that my body can't do even a simple back bend on a, Viparit Dandasana on a bench was like, what's that? Because my body had never bent like that ever in the whole life. Maybe not after I was 7. So there was a lot of revelations that happened, and that's how I joined it. So the word Iyengar came to me much later, when we got a little more familiar with our teacher and he used to talk about Guruji. Guruji says, who's Guruji? So then he said, oh, he's Mr. Iyengar. So that's the first time when you hear that name. And then you realize, okay, there's a book written by his Guruji, which was quite recent because this was before Guruji was 60. I'm talking about the late 70s, 1970s. So then I bought a copy of the Light and Yoga, and then I saw who Guruji was. I said, oh, this looks like a very strict, fierce, somebody, but then amazing asanas. So that's how my introduction to yoga became like that. And Guruji was just a distant figure in a book. But then what happened was that my teacher had, unfortunately, he had an accident, a road accident, and he wanted that his classes should continue. So he requested me to teach. And that was like, I didn't sleep that night because I said, how am I going to do this? And that the last thing ever, if you ask my childhood friends, last thing ever in my life on my agenda was to be a teacher. I said, that's the last thing I will ever do, but I don't want to be a teacher. And I never had, let me put it that way, I didn't have very inspiring teachers in my childhood. So that was not a goal which I wanted to follow. Like you idolize somebody, or somebody is your role model, you want to become like that. I never had that kind of a teacher, so I never wanted to be a teacher. And I always found that students were always making fun of the teachers. Teachers were like, unless they had a good caliber. I myself was very critical of my teachers because, if I didn't find them of a certain caliber, I'd say, okay, But then I was requested, and I didn't know what to do. But because of my love and respect for my teacher, I said, okay, so what am I going to do? He said, I will write you a sequence and you go and teach. I said, okay, so I will read out the names and I have to just demonstrate. And then he said, do one thing. I'm writing your note. Go to Guruji. He will guide you. So I said, where? What? So he told me, okay, he comes every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, you join his class. So furnished with that little note in my hand, I went to BKS Iyengar and I said, Father Joe sent me. I looked, he read the note. He said, oh, okay, how is he? Is he okay? I said, yeah, he's in hospital. He's fine. That's how I met my first meeting with BKS Iyengar. I was sent to him. It was just destined. I was not looking for him. I was not looking for a guru. I was not looking for a teacher. I was not looking for anything further in yoga than I felt good. So that was it. But then, as I said, I took to it like a duck to water, and there was no looking back after that because I just, it was something that did a lot for me in the sense, unknown. See, when you are 19, 20, or by the time I met Guruji, I was a little more than that, 21, 22. You don't really think of what is happening to you. You're not recognizing that you are changing as a person. There are some transformations. It was activity which was enjoyable. I looked forward to it, and that was it. And then when I started teaching, there was also appreciation coming. People were very kind, that, okay, now that you're... So you see, when you substitute for your mentor or your teacher, then the rest of the students in the class are your friends, right? So they support you very well. So there's never any criticism. So nobody ever told me you're not teaching well. So that was the good part or bad part, I don't know. But that was encouraging in a way. So that's how it went on. And then, of course, having met Guruji, anybody who's, I don't know, have you met BKS Iyengar ever in your life?
I did not have the opportunity, yes. Unfortunately.
You were not fortunate. Anybody who has come in contact with him cannot be indifferent. You can either love him or you can hate him. There are people who have gone away because they couldn't stand his fieriness and his straightforwardness. And, there were some people, depending on their status in life, they expected that he would be, very welcoming of them and, like giving them the respect and the status because they are some government official and they are on a post and a position. He couldn't care less. So there are those kind of people who expected a certain treatment from him and they got a rough treatment and they left him. And there were others who loved him. So there were only two kinds. Nobody can be indifferent to BKS Iyengar.